We got a great show for you today, ladies and gentlemen. Adam Pecora here, and you are listening to Requiem for a Tuesday. How are you, everybody? We got a nice loosey-goosey, quick one here for you folks, but it's going to be jam-packed with action from beginning to end. I'm going to go rapid fire. We're going to hit a couple movies. We're going to hit a sports corner. We're going to call it a day. Thank you for tuning in to Requiem for a Tuesday before we go fucking full throttle, nonstop action. Please rate, review, and subscribe. Especially subscribe to the show. Share the show. Share the episodes. Tell people about it. I'm a humble little man. I only have so much power and influence, and it's not enough. So whatever you can do, I appreciate you. Anyone who's a long-time listener, you know how I feel about you. All warm inside and fuzzy. But, you know, there's always room for more, so let's make that happen. RFAT.bigcartel.com for the merch. Adam.rfat on Instagram. I don't really post that much, so, whatever. What's the point? What am I going to be, a TikTok star? Not for me. Tune into the show. I'm aware that that's technically incorrect and not how it's supposed to go, but, I only have so much willpower. Multiplex, Wolfx, we got music. Just check all the links. Lots of good stuff. And now we go. So, Jesse Eisenberg's directorial debut, A Real Pain. Big Jew movie. Literally, like not just because he's a big Jew. The plot is Jews. So that's good. Him and Kieran Culkin. You got to love Kieran Culkin. Little Jennifer Grey action. I was like, who is that? I know that broad. It's Jennifer Grey. The guy from White Lotus who's married to Aubrey Plaza but fucks his friend's wife in the hut like a gangster. That guy's in it. And I want to say those are all the notable people. Kieran Culkin, excellent in this movie. Jesse Eisenberg, as consistent as ever. He wrote this film as well. That was an extreme verbalization. I don't know. Somebody fact checked me on that one. Anywho, cousins arrive at the airport together. You can't really tell what's going on. This is a real old school drama type movie. I will say marketed as a comedy. Don't buy into that. It's, there are jokes. This movie pretty much a bummer most of the time. That is not a knock, just a fact. So they link up at the airport, and you can tell that there's a vibe going on where something is being unsaid. Now it takes too long, and I would say there's a little too much inconsistency or a little too much vagueness that persists. Like there should be a deeper reveal about something at some point that never really happens. And I don't know. I feel like something is almost incomplete about the way this movie resolves. It's either just that something was missing or it needed just one more scene even to tie it all together. Maybe one flashback. Like, I don't know. I don't know what it is. But if this ending was meant to be thought-provoking, I just think the characters were a little underdeveloped for that to be the case. Now, I will backtrack and we'll kind of run through the gist. So, Jew boys meet up at, I believe JFK, could be LaGuardia. I don't recall. He's taking the BQE. Would that could mean he's going to either, right? Because correct. Duh. So I don't know. I don't recall. He's leaving a bunch of voicemails. He's clearly like, so it's presented that he's going to be like this frantic, neurotic super Jew. Not who the character is really at all. So a little bit of a misleading intro, but it's kind of funny. Meets Kieran Culkin up. Kieran's like, I'm good, bro. You thought I'd be late? Like, that's crazy. So it's like, okay, he's like, he's lazy and unreliable. We get it. All right, that's good. Then, like, you just kind of learn more about them through their interaction. They're cousins. They're going to Poland to do a Jew tour of misery and to see where their grandma lived as a child. Or maybe for a long time. I don't recall that either. So, nothing really of note at the airport or on the flight that I really remember. Oh, Kieran Culkin's like, oh, I'm sneaking weed. But, like, just to make Jesse Eisenberg nervous, it's then revealed when they get there that he mailed weed to the hotel. A much smarter decision. I believe internationally they don't play. That's not really going to work. You can probably just get it by domestically. If you're at least trying to be a little discreet, they'll probably let it go. Worst case, you're chucking it in an amnesty box. Although, is that how amnesty works? Like, do you have to be forthcoming and honest in amnesty? Like, do I get arrested if I don't amnesty? Or can you let me rewind and I choose amnesty? Anyway. They're in like a small tour group, and they all kind of introduce each other, and everybody has just like a tragic, terrible story. Except like one couple who's just like, no, we're just like Jewish. So we're just like, yeah, why not? But there's like an African guy who converted, Jennifer Grey, who is heartbroken, and I think that's it. And then the tour guide. And so they kind of just do Jew stuff in Poland, hop hotels. They have various incidents where Kieran Culkin, he's either being like incredibly charming and entertaining or like berating people. He's very like emotionally unstable, but he's like connected and connectable, and like people gravitate towards him. Jesse Eisenberg's just a little fucking dork, who is like too embarrassed of himself and too reserved. Like, basically, if these two guys fuse together, best guy of all time. They're just like, they're like each sections of a brain and inside out. Like, you really need to, you need to work in harmony for that to be good. They go to like a fucking, what are those called? A concentration camp? I was gonna just say they went to an Auschwitz. That would have been a mistake. So I wanted to take the time and dig deep. That was sad. Those are sad. I was kind of just thinking like, wow, there's like a lot of construction. It's like a ranch. That's not, in size. I don't mean that it's like a ranch. I mean, it was, unfortunately. But it's a ranch with all these buildings and all of this stuff. And it's just like, man, that's just like, and I knew this already, but it seemed like that was being filmed at a real one. Just like, It's odd that it's like so properly constructed and like it's not just like a barn even. They have these like I don't know. It just seemed like an insane amount. Which, I get what happened was not super chill. So I guess it does add up, but I don't know. Couldn't you just like never mind. What are we doing? Whatever. So that was tragic and terrible, and you see the shoes and all this shit, and it's awful. So that brings the mood down. This was after, I believe, Kieran Culkin throws a tantrum on the train about how he's like, this is ironic. And it's like, I got, I guess, the general thing of his point. But at the same time, it's like pretty sick to be free on the train. Like, he was like upset that they were in first class and like eating dinner. And he's like, 60 years ago, 80 years ago, like, would be thrown in the back. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of why, like, if anybody should be in first class, like, you kind of earned it. Like, that's the swing. That's the upswing. That's, you're doing all the remembering on the trip. I don't know. I'm not very, like, emotionally savvy necessarily. So, I don't know. People have feelings a lot, and that's interesting, I would say. Don't get it, personally, Never seen a painting and really felt anything. And people look at me and they're like, really? And I'm like, yeah, I don't get it. I'm impressed from a technical perspective 10% of the time. That's too generous. Things in big scale, though, even usually is just enough for me to be like, God damn, dude. Get on ladders and shit. I respect that. You know what I mean? Anyway. What else do? They just go to all these Jewy things and they have a great time. Or they don't. No, they go to like a cemetery. Anyway, this movie is a solid movie that ultimately is not very memorable, but technically is like a cool tour of Poland, and you do like learn things. Clearly, I've learned a lot. All the things that I've told you are such valuable historical lessons. Anyway, it's cool. Little tour around Europe. They reveal that Kieran Culkin like tried to kill himself after his grandma died, and they don't really understand why. And Jesse Eisenberg's like, I wish I was him. He doesn't even get it. Blah, blah, blah. Like, whatever. He's super cool. It's nuts. So that's kind of like the crux of the film, where you kind of like realize like, oh, that's what the vibe is the whole time. He's like kind of worried about him and maybe hasn't seen him since it happened. And then they kind of get into fights about like, yeah, man, you used to be there for me and all this, and we used to hang out. And he's like, I get you have a family, but we barely see each other. And then Eisenberg comes back and he's like, yeah, man, but you're either all or nothing. So it's like, I kind of have to keep my distance, blah, blah, blah. And then later the suicide thing comes up. He's like, I don't get why you'd fucking do that, man. Like, that's fucking crazy. And he's like, don't fucking wear it. Like, I'm good. And that's the whole thing. And so like, it's like a personal drama, but like you don't learn enough. Like the backstory is just like, yeah, we used to be close, and then like the story they give is like, we used to go out all night, man. Remember that time you fell asleep on a bench, man? And then they repeat that story like 2 or 3 times. It's like, that's kind of what I meant. And just like, I just needed more. Like, why are these two so connected? Because they're not really getting along for the most part. Kieran Culkin's just kind of bitching him over. And he's just kind of taking it the whole time. Which, then does make sense, because it's like he's worried about him. So he's like, I'm doing this trip for you. So yeah, all that stuff happens, and they kind of just end on good terms, and the trip ended up being good for them is kind of the thing. Yeah, nothing of no. They were weirdly obsessed with like needing to go on roofs to smoke weed, and it's like you can do that anywhere. Like, I don't know how severe the penalty is there in Europe, but I imagine they could just like run up back into their hotel, like just smoke outside. I don't know. Am I crazy to be the guy who's like just smoke outside where you're supposed to smoke? And like if you're in a place where it's a crime, like make sure it's all good. It takes 10 minutes at the most. How fat are these joints? 2 guys. I mean, come on. That bothered me. But look, a great directorial effort from Eisenberg. The filmmaking is impeccable. There's great shots throughout the movie. There's never any. The editing is all good. The pacing is all good. Very professionally made. I mean, he's clearly learned from all the great directors he's worked with a ton. A lean length too. An hour 40 runtime? Like a very a movie that used to be out all the time. There'd be one of these movies out per month when movies were a regular thing and they came out all the time, and this would have made $80 million and been like a like 8th place movie, whatever. Like it would be super fun on the ranking and a lot of people would like it. And there's 2,000 of these movies, and that's great. It's something that isn't being done anymore, and kudos to you, Jesse Eisenberg. Solid film. And then, so much for rapid fire. I really did talk a lot about that. I want to talk about Disney Pixar's Soul. I did not see this movie. Came out during COVID. Took a long, long time for me to get around to it. Pretty much because it came out during COVID, I'm like, oh, it's a movie about death. It seems like this will be depressing, especially knowing how emotional Pixar films get. And it is not that. So thankfully, that is the case. This movie is actually incredible, and I would put this in tier 1 Pixar. I did not do that ranking, but Ratatouille, Nemo's probably right on the fringe. WALL-E would be tier 1. Just off the top of my head. I don't know. But like the elite, this was incredible. Jamie Foxx is excellent. The score is amazing. It's Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross and what is his name? The guy who is everywhere. Oh, it's right at the tip of my tongue. John Batiste, of course. It's just great. Basically, this guy is a jazz musician who has loved it and tried to be one his whole life. And essentially, he is upset that he gets a full-time job offer from the school he works at because he does not want to be a music teacher. He still wants to make it as a musician, which is crazy. I mean, he's like 40 something. And then he happens to stumble upon the greatest opportunity of his life and gets a gig with a well-known jazz singer. What is she? A saxophonist? I think she's a saxophonist. But anyway, she's I believe, I don't know. Something. But she's a famous band leader, whatever. And this is in Manhattan, and it's beautifully rendered in the movie. Or is it in he might live in Brooklyn or something? I don't know. Doesn't matter. It looks great. And after something good happens to him, falls in a hole, dies, boom. And now he kind of instead of going to heaven, kind of escapes into this purgatory. And he befriends a lost soul that can't find any motivation. And basically it's this network of soul rehabilitation, so souls can be sent and become people on Earth. And he ends up stuck with this lost soul, and they kind of go through this whole fucking crazy purgatory world thing. But then they end up finding a way back in to the real world, but then she ends up in his body and he ends up in his cat, or just some cat or whatever. And then that's all very good. And then they find a way back and whatever. And he kind of learns a lot about himself because he is just a cat. And the lost soul behaves in ways that he would not. And he kind of just discovers what he was missing a lot in life by being so solely focused on trying to just fulfill his career. This movie I loved so much because it has so much to say. It says, number one, that pursuing your dream does not mean you can overlook the other parts of life, and that your life will not be as fulfilling if you disregard, community, essentially, family, friends, whatever, meaningful relationships in your life. But it also says, you definitely should chase your dream and not give up on your dream. But it also says, it's okay if your dream doesn't work out. And it's also okay if maybe you take a left turn, or, your path there is not what you thought it would be, or there's different versions of achieving your dream, which, maybe being a music teacher isn't that bad of a thing. And you don't need to look down on yourself for not having this high level job. Everyone has an important function and purpose. And it's oh my God, these ideas are unbelievable. And the death factor in it, they play it wonderfully. To where, I don't know, the movie definitely tries to pull at your heartstrings and all that stuff. But to me, it's more just the depth of lesson that is throughout here, coupled with it being about jazz and having great jazz throughout it, and being beautifully animated, and the juxtaposition of New York City to this purgatory of just pixels, and you know what I mean? It's just this not crudely rendered, because it still looks beautiful, but it's this more geometric, ethereal existence. It's just phenomenal. I was completely blown away by this movie, and I am upset that it took me this long to see it. So Papa just had to get the word out there. Big Papa Pump reporting live. I was going to do one more movie, but I'll actually save that because, and I'll give a teaser. This is a long-term teaser. It's not going to pay off for a while. But the next movie I wanted to talk about was Dinner in America by, I forget the guy's name. I apologize. That's not great. The director and writer of Snack Shack also did this movie. This movie's fucking awesome, and it's on Hulu. We're going to do the full breakdown later because Milady, because she wants to bang the star, got us ticks to the screening with Q&A. And I think that'll be a more appropriate time after a nice theater watch and hearing from the people who made it. That'll be a nicer recap for that time. But I think that is in late January. So we'll revisit that later. But check that out in the meantime also, though. Shout out. But the proper episode not happening there. So let's move it on into Sports Corner, shall we? Now that I've backed you into a Sports Corner. The Jake Paul fight was an embarrassment. He should be embarrassed. I mean, you get a fat bag, you obviously win. Both of them win because they get insane amounts of money. Netflix got insane viewership. They have no idea how to put on a live sporting event was my biggest takeaway. I had a feeling that fight was going to suck, but I kind of thought it would be sad in terms of Tyson taking a beating would be the worst case. Obviously, I hoped, like everyone else, that Tyson would win and would flash some crazy thing. But, you know, that was reality. It was like the time during COVID when the Broncos had to start a wide receiver at quarterback. And it was like, oh, maybe this will be like a movie and like they'll have some crazy effort. And they just had like zero chance on offense, like realistic, you know, and that was just an old guy. You know, what can you do? Props to him for pulling up, especially after whatever happened to him this summer that delayed the fight until now. So that's great. But the broadcast was terrible. His son interviewed him before the fight, before the beautiful ass cheek shot, which was great. I love that happened, as everybody else did. He asked a question and then held the mic by his own mouth. Forgot to give it to his dad there. You know, just fumbled a little bit. The announcer was horrific. Got into an argument with Roy Jones. Made the whole thing about him, frankly, the whole time. Would not stop talking. It was unbearable. I don't know if he was there the whole thing, but that must have been exhausting if you watched every fight on that card. I saw the women's fight. That cut was disgusting. It was hard to look at. Incredibly deep. I don't really like boxing that much. I think UFC, frankly, just makes a lot more sense and is better and more entertaining. Now, great boxing is very entertaining, but you know, that certainly didn't happen. You know, Jake Paul, just fight a boxer. That is not that there is no caveat or asterisk or, you know what I mean? No obvious advantage in one way. Can you do that? Can you like fight real fights? And look, it makes more sense to make like a crazy amount of money because you're famous. I get it. But to what end? I mean, you know, what's the point? You've seen enough memes. He's fighting Jimmy Carter. He's fighting Muhammad Ali's corpse. Like, you're going to fight Steven Seagal? Like, what is next? What's the point? You know, whatever. So that was a lose-lose. Rosie Perez, what was she doing there? And she didn't know what to say, when to say it. She contradicted herself a couple times. They all contradicted themselves or each other at least once. Just a disaster from a production standpoint. Ariel Helwani, a little one note in my opinion. Like I just wish he had more energy and emotion, but he's very smart. He's probably the only smart person they had. I just don't really know how I feel about that guy, but he's obviously very good and knowledgeable. I don't know. I think he just comes off a little condescending at times, and that's what bothers me. I think that's all I got for that. Just no good. And then John Jones, unbelievable. I replayed that 20 times. I don't know how you could. I mean, that would have just killed me. My ribs would have caved in and stabbed my heart, and I would have bled out. I wish he fought twice a year. I love watching him just dismantle people. It's pretty unbelievable. And then, you know, we'll do the NFL picks here. I'll just start with the Bears. I don't really care. I came in expecting them to get blown out. Thomas Brown, clearly pretty competent. I love that they ran real plays and looked like a real offense. It's kind of just like, why was he not just the offensive coordinator? You know, all you can do is what ifs. It's all too late. They should have fired the coach in the first place. They should have hired a different offensive coordinator. They should have defended the Hail Mary. They should have, you know, whatever. They obviously should have ran another play yesterday. It is what it is. This was a perfect storm scenario, though. Everybody on the team looked great except for the kicking operation. On replay, it seemed like they were just like jumping over the snapper, which I believe is a penalty. But, you know, whatever. We should have ran another play. Possibly 2 or 3. Could have thrown it. Who knows? We learned that Caleb Williams is awesome, which I knew that already, but it was clearly it's all coaching. All the problems have been coaching. He's going to have ups and downs. The reason people say regressing, I think that's weird. How he regressed from his first 7 games into his next 3. So now that means he sucks and should be benched. It's like, or he had 3 bad games, and the coach is the whole problem. But I thought that was clear. Anyway, he plays great. He leads the team down the field. 3rd and 19. That's usually the position the Bears end up in, and they never get out of it. The fact that he got us out of that, gutsy plays, great throws that have Tom Brady, pulling his dick out. The coach chooses to be conservative and be a pussy. He said, if you run it, what do you get? 2 yards, and then you risk a fumble. Yeah, why play the game, coach? You might fumble every time. You might throw an interception on every pass, so let's never pass it. I mean, you're just a giant fucking pussy. And then he doubles down on it. And it's like, man, how have you not learned anything? Caleb Williams is taking all this accountability for shit that isn't his fucking fault. You're a grown man with children. You look your fucking kids in the eyes. I shouldn't go to that level. But I mean, fuck this guy is the point. It's just unbelievable. But anyway, so everybody looks great except for the field goal unit. And again, if the kick is closer, higher trajectory, maybe it doesn't get blocked at all. We don't know because of the coach. So, all positives except for that last decision. Everyone on the team is aware that the coach is the problem. Everyone. So I don't think the loss hurts Caleb's confidence at all. I think everything about this was positive. If Thomas Brown can continue doing what he's doing, then that's all we can ask for is for games like this to happen because the coach looks dumb. Everybody else looks good. That means the coach will get fired and we lost the game. The draft pick will get better. I had the Packers -1. They couldn't even, they lose by 1. It's a push. Had some other great bets that worked out, so that was nice. And that Bears bet was a fucking bonus refund if it failed, because of course the Bears can't even lose correctly. But that's my mentality. I didn't think it was going to go in. The second I saw them, dilly-dallying and being confused and just letting the clock run, the vibes were bad. It just didn't seem good. And, of course they lost. I didn't even hurt me emotionally. I was waiting all game for something terrible to happen and for them to piss it away or make a huge mistake or whatever. So, nothing crazy for me. I'll run through the games here real quick. I have been well over 500 this season. It's alarming, really. All right, let's see. What week is this? All right. Seahawks 49ers had the Seahawks. The 49ers are not good. That was a great run by Geno. I had the Packers over the Bears. Had the Eagles over the Commanders. A lot of easy ones this week. I had the Broncos over the Falcons. Wow, this is all preseason. How did I get all this right? I had the Jags over the Lions in an upset. That was a big mistake. Here we go. Here come the losses. Patriots over the Rams. Just took a shot with that one, I assume. Saints, Browns. Nice. Took the Titans over the Vikings. That's wishful thinking. Look, I just want Thomas Brown, if he can just keep us looking like a normal offense and Caleb not getting hurt. And my only thing is, if he ends up being, very decent, all I'm going to say is it should be up to Caleb, not up to anybody else at the end of the year. That's what I want to say. If Caleb and DJ and DeAndre, and they're all for real, we're very comfortable with this. We want to keep this. We like everything about this that this guy's doing. If that's the case, I'm looking way ahead, obviously. Then we should keep him with a new coach, but that's messy, so we have to get a defensive coach. Mike Vrabel would be the best option ever. But again, I'm just saying, that's also kind of like a thing in my head, which is like, if he's too good, is that going to be another mess for us? So we'll see. But that's a weird optimism. Again, it's confusing, but they need to lose and get draft picks, get a better draft position, I should say. What else do we got? Had the Jets over the Colts. Of course, the Jets fucking blew it. Had the Bills over the Chiefs. Had the Bengals over the Chargers. Oh, that game won me a lot of money. Joe Burrow, 303 tutties. Justin Herbert, 250 and 2 tutties. Herbert was killing me, though. Had 240 yards. And then 4 drives in a row. They do absolutely nothing. It was unbearable. I wish the Bengals would have won, though. I really want the Bengals to be in playoff position. I had the Steelers over the Ravens. That one was a shocker, but that's kind of just how they play. And Raiders over the Dolphins. Big mistake. So what does that total out to? Oh, and I have the Cowboys tonight. That's probably not going to happen. So we can count that as a loss. But without it, the total is 7-6. I guess I didn't do as well as I thought. But the fact that I picked all these, again, in August, is insane that I keep going over 500. Do I know football or what, ladies and gentlemen? I mean, come on. I'm a fucking miracle worker. I ran through the whole slate, I believe, in the preseason episode. You should go bet on whatever I said for week 12, because I'm just doing this as a recap thing to see how it all plays out every week. But man, oh man, over 500 every week. Now that would be money line, I guess, every time. So that's a little tougher. But yeah, all about Caleb. That's all I care about going forward. A lot of games left. I just hope he's okay and everything looks good. Knock on wood. And, man, I'm just nervous. I just don't want anything bad to happen to him. Love that kid. It's his birthday. Happy birthday, Caleb Williams. Oh, is he number 18 because his birthday's on the 18th? That might make sense. What else do we got? Oh, yes. If you're still listening, I probably should have said this earlier, but if you're one of those full episode listeners like me, I appreciate you. No episode next week, Thanksgiving week, just gonna take it easy. Nobody's gonna be fucking listening to shit. The Bears are gonna get demolished by the Lions. So whatever. If we miss, I'll maybe do a double fucking 2-week recap, but maybe not. Who cares? Nobody's paying attention to this anyway. Let's see. I think that's it. Rate, review, and subscribe, everybody. I appreciate you for listening. My YouTube people, I've been uploading this as technically as a video since the beginning. And ever since adding it officially through the feed as a podcast feed on YouTube numbers been excellent. So thank you to my YouTube listeners. It's great having you. I'm still doing the video out of habit, but now it's just the same episode twice every time. So that's kind of dumb, and I feel like I should stop, but it's just been so long that I kind of feel like I have to. So whatever. We'll see. I'll maybe stop if I get sick of doing the video because it does add a little bit of time to the process. But that's fine. So gobble, gobble, everybody. Enjoy your fucking fat, gluttonous, disgusting meal and a day of football. And the Bears are going to, that game will be over by halftime, probably. But enjoy it. I know I will. Because if you know this show, you know the slogan that I close out with every week. I are fat. Perfect for Thanksgiving. You are fat. That's right, everybody. We are fat. Happy holidays. Calculator.